Hello world, welcome, or welcome back. I'm Goddess Dawn. It's December 18, 2019. But listen, I'm back with some R. Kelly updates. But before doing so, can I mention that your boy Trump has been impeached? Yes, I can. Trump has been impeached by the House by vote today. But let's listen to Maxine Waters on the matter before I go on.
Unfortunately, the rules of debate won't allow me to cite all of the reasons why this president should be impeached. There are many. However, Madam Speaker and members of this House, to quote the late Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. This day was not inevitable, but it was predictable because this president has shown himself time and time again to believe that he is above the law, and he has no respect for our Constitution or our democracy. Based on all that we know about Donald Trump, we could have predicted he would have abused the power of the president by corruptly soliciting the government of Ukraine and the Ukrainian President Zelensky to publicly announce investigations into his political opponent, former Vice President Joseph R. Biden. This impeachment resolution includes evidence that this
Well, there you have it, an example of how the process can work for us. But it's still yet to be seen whether or not he will actually be removed from office. And that is up to the Senate to decide, which tells me that it may not happen, but time will tell. And that goes for everything else, including your boy Sylvester, or R. Kelly as some call him still. You guys need to make sure you arm yourself, and that means with knowledge and a piece or two or three if you're able. But I'm gonna leave it at that. But let's let the people's opinion weigh in here before we end this out.
Obama ain't never get impeached, bitch. You mad. You big mad.
Now on to the R. Kelly related updates. I'll start with his arraignment today, where he was made to answer to the new indictment for bribing a government employee in order to marry singer Aaliyah back in 1994. I'll just share what's here in the news, and this comes from the Chicago Tribune. It reads, jailed R&B star R. Kelly pleaded not guilty in a Chicago federal courtroom Wednesday to a new indictment brought in New York, alleging he bribed an Illinois official to get a fake ID for 15-year-old singer Aaliyah a day before he married her in 1994. Dressed in an orange jail jumpsuit, Kelly, 52, kept his hands clasped behind his back as he appeared for his arraignment before the U.S. Judge Ann M. Donnelly in Brooklyn via a live television feed from a largely empty 17th floor courtroom at the Dirksen U.S. Courthouse. Good afternoon, ma'am, and that's in quotes, says Kelly said this to the judge in New York in a firm voice as the hearing began. The superseding indictment filed in federal court in Brooklyn last week alleged that Kelly directed someone in August 1994 to bribe the public official into making a false identification document for the female. That's how it reads here. The Chicago Tribune has obtained records showing that the female identified in the charges only as Jane Doe number 1 was Aaliyah. The next day, Kelly, then 27, married Aaliyah Halton in a secret ceremony with falsified paperwork that gave her age as 18. The marriage was later annulled by a Michigan judge at the insistence of Aaliyah's family. In Illinois, someone must be a minimum of 18 to marry without parental consent. The new allegation was added to the sweeping racketeering conspiracy indictment that New York prosecutors brought over the summer, accusing the singer of identifying underage girls attending his concerts and grooming them for later sexual abuse. Kelly's attorney, Stephen Greenberg, has previously said the new indictment does not appear to materially alter the landscape, and that's in quotes. We continue to look forward to the day he is free. he told the Tribune by text last week. Kelly is in federal custody awaiting trial on the New York charges, as well as separate indictment brought by the federal prosecutors in Chicago, alleging the singer conspired with two former employees to rig his 2008 child pornography trial in Cook County by paying off witnesses and victims to change their stories. In addition, Kelly was charged in Cook County Criminal Court in February with 4 separate indictments accusing him of sexual misconduct over more than a decade. 3 of those alleged victims were underage at the time. If convicted in all jurisdictions, the embattled singer, whose full name is Robert Sylvester Kelly, could potentially face the rest of his life in prison. U.S. District Judge Harry Leinenweber in Chicago has set a tentative trial date in April. The New York case is set to go to trial May 18th. No trial dates have been set for the 4 Cook County indictments. I don't know that that is correct. From what I understand, the trial was set for September. But this is what it reads here. It then says Aaliyah met Kelly when she was just 12. As his protege, she went on to become a teenage R&B star. Her smash hit May 1994 debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, was produced and written by Kelly. The nature of their relationship and Aaliyah's real age were the subject of much public speculation at the time. Their secret marriage collapsed after Aaliyah's parents found out and insisted on an annulment, according to news accounts. Aaliyah left Kelly's record label later that year. She died in a plane crash in 2001. In the recent documentary, Surviving R. Kelly, Kelly's former tour manager, Demetrius Smith, said he arranged the forged Aaliyah marriage documents for Kelly and was one of a handful of people present at the small ceremony in Rosemont. This is in quotes. It was just a quick little ceremony. She didn't have on a white dress. He didn't have on a tux, Smith said in the documentary. Just everyday wear. She looked worried and scared. Smith, who has not been charged with any wrongdoing, told TMZ in an interview last week that he's been subpoenaed to testify by federal investigators. Documents obtained by the Chicago Tribune through an open records request show the federal prosecutors in New York subpoenaed the Cook County Clerk's office in July for Kelly's marriage records to Aaliyah and later to Andrea Danielle Kelly, which ended in divorce in 2009. Prosecutors in Brooklyn also asked for any Cook County marriage records for one of Kelly's recent living girlfriends, Azriel Clary, now 21, records show. Clary had until recently lived with Kelly at the Trump Tower in Chicago. The Cook County clerk responded that it had no such records. Federal prosecutors in Chicago, meanwhile, also asked for records pertaining to the Aaliyah marriage, the records show. And I find that interesting that I didn't see that Joycelyn was mentioned. This goes on to say, in March, Assistant U.S. Attorney Angel Kroll, the lead prosecutor on the Chicago case, sent an email to a clerk's office employee asking for records pursuant to an open law enforcement investigation, this is in quotes, according to the documents obtained by the Tribune. Given the high-profile nature of the request, we ask that to the extent possible, you keep the fact of this request limited to as few people as possible within your agency, Kroll wrote. And that's the end of the article. And I don't know, where did we fall as, this Chicago Tribune was written by Jason Meisner, who I do follow on Twitter. And, is it crossing the line to put something out publicly that could potentially affect the case at all? I mean, it seems the prosecutor had a reason for asking that the information be kept as quiet as possible, although it wasn't sealed. So I guess as a journalist, he, is obligated to put it out there to keep the transparency within his writing. But I wonder that myself. I mean, obviously I'm not a journalist per se. However, doing these blogs and lives and talking about the case, I do question, or I have in the past, whether or not something should be put out there or not. But eventually I end up putting things out because it's what I'm here to do. So anyway, there's that. Listen, Linda. Look, it's a wrap. This guy's cooked. The possibility of him getting bail and let alone off altogether is slim to never, in my opinion. And again, let me remind you that he's looking at 3 trials so far in 2020, April, May, and September, and maybe a 4th when it comes to the Minnesota case that he picked up a couple months ago. Shout out to the Grown Man Show. He's putting out videos like There's No Tomorrow, and I try to hop in there and check them out when I can. And I did see some comments in the chat which labeled Sylvester as a serial pedophile and sadist, and also I heard somewhere else that he's a pathological narcissist. And there's another comment that the comment said that he had soul ties to demons that are now also tied to some of these girls. So I don't know, I was just thinking about that. And with that said, you can always turn these things around. There is a such thing as a demonic hold. There is a such thing as possession. There's also such thing as just having them present and affecting your life. So you got to stay cleansed. There's a lot of ways to do it, and stay protected as much as possible. That means prayed up, whatever that means for you, because a lot of people have different methods. I do offer meditations, and people seem to thrive and do well by partaking. So with that being said, let's move on. What's next on the radar with regard to these cases, the situation as a whole, is the airing of Surviving R. Kelly Part 2, The Reckoning. And I'm not going to play the promo as to not to take chances on a copyright strike for infringement, but I will say it looks enticing. I know there's a lot of controversy around it, with Andrea Kelly and Lisa Van Allen both suing the network, Lifetime. Apparently they didn't participate in Part 2, but the network used their images in the promo anyway. I hope they read their contracts or had an attorney do so. My thing is, it's a huge platform with a lot of eyes, so regardless of your gripes, I think you should just take the exposure and run with it. Being an adversary to the network and all on social media, griping and groaning, it kind of puts a dark cloud over the project, which in turn is a bad look for the survivors who are willingly featured, telling their truths. You got played by Lifetime. Okay, well, don't hate the player, hate the game. Now you know, and you need to position yourself to garner bigger and better opportunities at this point from the exposure that it provides. Because honestly, no one wants to work with somebody who's negative and toxic and brings problems, which is what my perception of them is now. I do hope they get what they're looking for out of their efforts. It's clear that the focus being R. Kelly has loosened, given that he's so tightly wrapped by the feds behind bars for 6 months now almost, as he awaits his trial, which again is April 27, 2020. Listen, my friend and sub, the old man, as he calls himself, he had this to say, so I'm going to let this be my last word today on the matter.
All right. God, I just want to tell you that don't worry about R. Kelly situation. You can go on to a different platform now, because it's all covered up. It's meaning covered up, I mean it's all taken care of. Let me correct that. It's taken care of. He got some of his co-workers. They done made a deal with the feds. So, hey, that's going to take care of that right there. If you remember this singer or something, his name was Gates. I can't think of his name, Sam Gates, whatever his name is. He been in prison. Now he's out and he's singing and everything. Like he said, it's not the federal government is 99% conviction rate. He said, but it comes from the people that tells what you've been doing. So the ones that take the thing where they don't want to go to prison and get time out, they gonna tell because they don't want to go to prison.
That's right.
So it's already known that a couple of his co-workers have already made a deal with the feds. So eventually, like I say, that's over with. That's over with. So anytime the feds after you, 99% conviction, and then you're going to have your so-called buddies on turn against you and tell everything you did and they did, and they gonna get
All right, old man. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to end this here. Thanks for hanging out. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Like this video on your way out and comment. Let me know your thoughts and let me know you were here. Till next time, peace.